This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Oh, man. I just like that opening. It's just creepy, isn't it? Man,
Awesome.
welcome to True Ghost Stories. Good evening, wherever you might be. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's True Ghost Stories. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Mekas. If this is your first time, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and also don't forget to follow wherever you listen to your podcast. Tonight, we have with us, for the first time, Lori Martinez. How you doing, Lori? How you doing?
I'm wonderful, Paul. How are you?
Normally, I don't have clapping on a Halloween show, but you deserve it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your service in law enforcement all these years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we don't hear much about any stories from first responders or law enforcement, firefighters and stuff. We hear some from like military personnel every now and then, if they're willing to tell these stories. We would like we have an interesting history with paranormal investigation in Casadega here in Florida, and we met quite a few years ago. I don't know how it was, about 10 years. Time
It's been a
flies.
while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We've done actually that investigation in Casadega was a world global. Where I forgot the name of it.
World
That
Ghost Hunt Days.
yeah, the
Yeah.
World Ghost
It
Hunt.
was it was big.
That was huge. I'm sure you've had some experiences that we'd like to share tonight with everybody to what you have experienced that may have kind of just set you off that you just didn't expect, especially being on duty, on or off duty. Now, some of your experience were most of them on duty.
Absolutely.
Cool. What is which one? Which one really gives you the goosebumps, or which would give us the goosebumps?
That would probably be the one where you want me to tell you the full story? Like I can tell you the full story.
Yeah.
This this husband had found out that his wife was cheating on him. And he happened to find out where she was at, where they both were at. So he drives the minivan over there to the boyfriend's house and he
Uh,
does a drive-by. He shoots the gun a few times and he sees everybody go down on the ground and he thought he shot her and the boyfriend.
yeah.
So she calls 911. Obviously she's okay, she didn't get hit. She calls 911. They send myself out there along with other units to be on the lookout for the shooter, for this man. Well, we while we're converging onto the scene, once we find out pretty much where his house is, because it's a very close area to where the shooting occurred.
Mhm.
Am I allowed to say the word of the police department that stopped him? The traffic stop on
Um,
him?
I don't see why not.
Okay. So while we're all looking for the suspect in his minivan, Fruitland Park was able to spot him and pull him over. So I'm overhearing this on the radio that they've stopped him, but he won't get out of the car.
Mm.
They're trying to, talk him out, but he won't get out of the car. So as I'm arriving on scene, we're pretty much converging on him. I'm coming from actually right in front of him. I'm coming from in front of him, and he could see me coming with my lights on. He steps out of the minivan, and unfortunately, he decides to commit suicide
Whoa.
without even talking to him to let him know that, hey, you know what, the wife's still alive. maybe we can all just talk about this. You know what I mean? Like, without knowing if he really killed her or not, he stepped out of the minivan and he just shot himself.
Hmm.
So that was pretty tough, obviously seeing that. But as these scenes go, pretty much it lasted for a few hours. You have the detectives that come out. You have FD that comes out, and then he's taken away from the scene. And I'm still there. I'm the last unit still there. And it was probably about 2 or 3 in the morning once everything was over. Fire department was just got done spraying off the pavement.
Hmm.
It's eerie, like smoke comes up off the pavement
Yeah.
instantly. No, not smoke. I'm sorry. This eerie. You're editing this, right? Okay.
Yeah, it can, depending on how gross it is.
For this, it was just an eerie moment. Like after they get done spraying off the pavement, this mist. There you go. Like some eerie mist was like just started kind of like building up everywhere. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, I just tried to ignore it because I'm trying to work on my report. So, I'm working on my computer, trying to type up the report from the incident that happened. And next thing you know, my computer like freezes and then it just goes out.
Ooh.
And I'm like, that's odd. So I'm just sitting there hitting it. Like, what's going on? And then my radio starts switching channels. Literally, my radio starts switching channels. So there's all this white noise and different channels happening. And then my dash lights start going off and on. And I'm like, okay, this is super crazy. What's going on? Right now, we talk about it. I've got goosebumps. Just remembering this moment. So I start to feel suddenly this like this pressure on my shoulders, like this heavy weight on my shoulders. It was the weirdest feeling. Like I suddenly was not alone.
Yeah.
And out of the corner of my eye, I see this shadow figure like in the back seat of my car. And I'm like, oh my God, it hit me. I'm like, I'm the last one here. So this gotta be this guy. Because it just felt so oppressive. And I started feeling all these emotions and of like anger and resentment and the frustration. It was all these crazy emotions I started getting, and I know that it was coming from this guy. It had to have been him in my car
Mhm.
because he was affecting all of my equipment. It was just going absolutely crazy. So literally after a few minutes of this happening, I mean, what can you do when you start thinking as a cop? You're like, okay, well, I can't just drag this guy out of my car, right? I because there's
Yeah.
nothing to really grab onto. I can't you can't I've been telling him to get out, he won't get out because I can
Yeah.
kinda see him out of the corner of my eye. He's in the back of my car. I'm asking him to get out of my car. He won't get out of my car, and everything's going crazy inside my car. So I start to try to collect my thoughts, and I'm like, okay, let's think scientifically about this. Let's think. What was happening at the moment where right before he killed himself? He was all the emotions he was feeling, and where was he heading? Let's look at the car. He was heading back home because he was only a few blocks away. He almost made it home before Fruitland Park stopped him.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, maybe he just wants to go home because we stopped his progression to go home. So I thought, well, let's give it a shot. I mean, nothing else is working. He's not getting out of my car. I can't physically take him out of my car. So I was able to get the car and to drive, and I flew to his house. Again, it was only a couple blocks away. I was able to get there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "You know what, buddy? I don't know if this is gonna work or not, but I have a feeling you just wanna go home. So, we're gonna do that." I pull up to his house, and I stop in front of his house, and I said, "All right, there's your house. Get out of my car. Get out right now." Didn't use the nice words like that, but we're,
Yeah.
on online here. So, I s as soon as I told him to get out of my car, my computer literally popped back on to where I had left off on my report.
Mm.
My radio stopped switching channels, and my lights went back to normal inside the dash and everything.
Huh.
And I was like, I had to sit back for a second. I was like, did that just happen? I just, that was so weird. That
Yeah.
was so weird. But that's what he wanted. He wanted to go home. So I took him there, dropped him off, and I put my car back in the drive and I got out of there.
You got the hell out of there.
I sure did. I mean,
Yeah.
that was just so talk about stressful, it was just it was very freaky. Very freaky. I'm just glad I knew what I know, you know, about
And that
spirit.
yeah, and that begs the next question or segues in the next question. Is
Mhm.
in outside the realm of possibilities that any normal person would just freak the hell out and just like either think there's something wrong with their car, and think their car has been captured by a UFO. I don't know. Somebody would normal people would not react the way you did and handle this the way you did. Um, I don't know how other people would react, but for the fact that you kind of just went, I know what this is. It's the spirit of this guy who just killed himself. Most people wouldn't put two and two together. But yeah, but this is what you do.
That's right.
So, um, yeah, that that is creepy. Wow. Um, yeah, I don't know if I was in that situation, I don't yeah. I mean, I've got the same history. I mean, I see dead people all the time, but it's like, it's not normally in that situation after someone just killed themselves and then kind of, but I don't know. So what have you heard anything since that incident? Has there been any what do you call it? Fallout from it? Any kind of residual from that after where that happening?
No. In fact, the rest of the time I worked that zone, I never went back down that street again. I haven't gone back there. The wife never called back in. Of course, then she didn't know what happened. I mean, as to what after he shot himself. Um, but I mean, am I curious as to is he still possibly visiting her and maybe haunting her? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I did drop him off at his house. You know, I
Mm.
I I would like to find. I would love to find out if that's still going on. But maybe he's been able to work through it and moved on. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd hope so. He
Yeah.
came to his own justice and moved on. And, hmm. Um, Now is that's the one that kind of sticks out, but there was without having to give too many details and stuff like that and putting 2 and 2 together. You actually were on, an episode of, what was it? Um, Paranormal 911 or something like that? I think that was the
Yes.
name of it. Yeah. Um
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I'm like, I was someone reached out to me a few years back, casting director for like Sci-Fi Channel or Travel Channel and stuff like that. And they were
Mhm.
asking me, hey, do you have a story to share? I'm like, well, I don't. And it was specifically for law enforcement or first responders. I'm like, well, I'm not really a first responder, but I know people. And that's when I reached out to you and go, hey, you interested? And you took the reins and heck yeah.
Yeah, I told them a series of incidents that's happened at work, and that's the one that really stood out
Mhm.
to the producer, and she jumped right on it because this is pretty intense.
Yeah.
It was a pretty intense situation, but yeah, I've been very blessed that pretty much my whole life I've known what spirit was and how to feel them and feel that energy and communication and so it's but for that I was not expecting. I've seen a lot of death, obviously in law enforcement and
Yeah.
first responders. You see a lot of death, but rarely, if not ever, will one jump in your car and instantly start affecting your equipment. I mean, yeah, that was definitely I was not expecting that whatsoever,
I was
whatsoever.
probably when you think about it, you probably figured that would be the safest place to hide out for a little while and kinda, like, for him to kind of, I don't know, what's the lack of a better word, vent, decompress. No pun intended, but, decompress and kinda just yeah. And you being the last one there, it's like, what? It's really the only I don't know, it just seems logical. Very interesting to how it happened, but, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Definitely creepy with the mist and everything, and then suddenly your stuff
Yeah.
goes crazy in the car on your yeah, that was pretty wild. That was a wild moment.
Yeah. Um, now there has been others there's a lot. There's quite a few other stories that, you don't have to tell all of them, but there's, what would be another one that kinda sticks out, with you? You
Okay.
mentioned, one about showing up to I think it was, like, a mobile home or something like that, and you thought there was a dog there, but
Yes,
there was
that
no dog? Ah, that one.
this
You
is
tell it
crazy,
better than I
okay?
can.
This yeah, that's amazing how you remember that. This was, like, middle of the day,
Yeah.
and again, spirit can come into you, day or night, doesn't matter. There's no time and space, right, in the spirit realm. So, middle of the day, I get this call in Paisley, as part of Lake County where I worked, and,
Mm,
the wife, an estranged wife had called and wanted us to go and do a well-being check on her husband because she had just left him, and he threatened all kinds of different things. He wanted to kill himself and take pills, he wanted to commit suicide.
wow.
So, 2 of us, my zone partner and I go out to the house, and we're very careful because she had mentioned that he had a gun.
Mm,
So we carefully approach the home and we knock on his door and we hear a dog barking. Okay. So, and you can actually, when we key up on the radio to let the county know, county, we're knocking on the door, but he's not answering, but we can hear the dog barking. So, do you mind trying to call the house? So
mm,
we could hear the phone ringing because our dispatcher's trying to call him to have him answer the phone and have him step out to talk to
yeah,
us. Again, he wasn't in any trouble at the time. It was just a well-being check. So we're not going to bust down the door, or anything like that. I was
yeah.
just checking in on him. So again, we're here. The dog's still barking. We hear the dog barking. Even my partner, and then the radio, you can hear it. Dispatch hears it.
Huh.
This is just what's crazy. So we're like, okay, well, he's not coming to the door, County. He's not going to answer it because we can hear him walking around now. My partner and I actually heard, if you know trailers very well, anyone listening to this, you can actually hear somebody walking through a trailer. We heard him walking around. He just wasn't coming to the door. The dog's
Mm,
barking. So we decided to wait for more backup to come, wait for the wife to bring a key because she still had some stuff inside. She still lived there, technically. She had just left. So we back away. We set up a little perimeter around the house and we wait for her to get there with a key. Other units arrive because we know that we're going to have to go in to check on him. Well, about 5 units line up and to make ready to go into the trailer to make entry. And we go in. The first guy sees a cat. Didn't see a dog, but he saw a cat.
hmm.
And he was actually one of the canine unit guys. He's like, "Hey guys, close the door behind us because don't let the cat out." Right, 10-4. So go ahead and move. We clear the house. We find him passed out in the back of the trailer next to an empty bottle of sleeping pills.
Whoa.
He's been sleeping for a little while, and there was a long gun, right next to him, standing up against the wall. So right then and there, it's already confusing to people because they're like, "Hold on a minute, if he's been walking around, but how is that when he's passed out on a sleeping pill? This is kind of weird." So we wake him up, the little sternum rub. We wake him up and we take him outside. We sit him down on the front porch, and we're talking to him while EMS is on the way. And so we're like, "Listen, we're like completely baffled. We're like surrounding him, like, dude, we heard you walking around. And by the way, real quick, where's your dog? And he's like, dog. He's like, I don't have a dog. And I'm like,
Yeah.
sir, we heard your dog barking when you weren't answering the door. And then we also saw a cat inside. He's like, I don't have any animals. And I'm like, are you sure about that? He's like, yeah. He's like, I
Huh.
don't have any animals. He's like, it's those goddamn ghosts. He's like, they've been following me my whole life.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'm like, wow. Okay, let me, you know what? Let me just double check. I walk inside of his house. There's no sign of an animal. There's no bowls. There's no food. There's no animal in the house whatsoever.
Wow.
And that just not only blows my partner's mind because he wasn't a believer, but I would, you know,
Mm.
he would always make a joke with me because I would always come back on Monday or whatever to talk to him about the ghost investigation or whatever he had that weekend, and he just didn't want to believe it and blah blah blah. But now, middle of the day, my partner, who wasn't a believer, had now seen all of this, completely mind blown, and he's a believer now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no animals whatsoever, and you actually could hear them over the comp center radio.
Wow.
Mind blowing. Yes.
Huh.
Yep.
A- And he never, I would assume he never owned an animal or ever had. I would assume it sounded like a big dog, kind of like a German Shepherd type size
Yeah, it
dog. Or
was. Yes.
like, "Row, row, 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 row."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was
Yeah.
very loud.
Wow.
It was
Yeah.
awesome.
That is spooky. Spooky, especially middle of the day. I mean, middle of the day, the dispatchers can hear it through the radio. I mean, that is unmistakable. Something that doesn't physically exist, barking, making that noise. Everybody freaking hears it. Yeah, that's huh. Wow.
And for others, like the other units that were there to actually see the cat inside and telling the guy in the back of the line, close the door, make sure the cat doesn't get out. I mean, they're all walking around like shaking their heads like, did we see a ghost? You know, they're still, you know, questioning themselves, but
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Huh.
Yeah.
And I guess the cat. What? So you saw the cat. You and one other person saw the cat, right?
Yes, the canine guy.
Okay. And then after it, I guess the cat didn't get out, I would assume. The door was closed, and
Correct.
then the cat was
There's
never
no
seen
cat.
again.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah. The guy
Wow.
said he didn't have a cat, didn't have a dog, he had no animals. And when I went back through, there was no sign of or trace of any animal in that home.
I would've been like, "Do you have a fish?"
Is there anything?
Right?
Nothing. Nothing.
Oh, man. Huh.
Mhm.
That is creepy. Wow. Yeah, mm. Um, yeah, do you know of any I'm sure there's a lot of skeptics that might be on the force too. I mean, there's probably a lot of like you said, you got some officers that just don't that they're complete skeptics. They don't want to believe it. Probably because one, they've never experienced it other than those that were on the scene that day. But are there um what do you think the percentage is for those of the force that have had an experience compared to those who just don't believe it, never had an experience?
I can guarantee you that 100% of first responders have seen or heard something, but majority of them, like the non-believers, they'll shake
Mhm.
it off like it was their imagination. Guaranteed,
Mm,
because a lot of them don't like to talk about it.
yeah.
Everybody who I worked with knew didn't mind talking about it because I wasn't afraid to talk about it. And I knew what I was talking about, you know, and I love to educate people on spirit, on
Mm,
energies, and because people fear what they don't understand, what they don't know. So I will tell you that probably about over half, maybe 65, 70% of the men and women I worked with are not believers, but have experienced something,
Mm,
just don't talk about it and don't want people to think they're crazy, or their own partner don't want them to think they're crazy, so they just kind of shake it off and go on to the next call. But
yeah.
every one of us have been on death calls,
Oh,
and there's always
yep.
something kind of weird feeling, but any death call, I mean, but you know yeah, especially suicide calls. I mean, they're the tough ones because the energy is still there. It was
Mhm.
always tough for me to go to suicide calls because I could, you can still feel them because they're still there. And we've had some deputies that have said that they've gone to these suicide calls and lights in the house was turn off and on, and so they would step out to their vehicles and just sit there to wait for the ME or wait for the sergeant to come or EMS to come and pronounce them.
Yeah.
But I mean, people, yeah, we've seen stuff out there.
Huh.
Yeah.
Are there is there only a particular person that's able to pronounce the time of death?
Correct. That's EMS. So they come in and they run a strip on the body.
Okay. Yeah. Um, are there any suicide calls that you wanna talk about? Any details?
Oh, um, without putting too much out there because I don't know who all's
Oh,
listening.
yeah. Yeah, anything that y in a way that you don't have to give details or, change the name or
Oh boy,
don't give too much.
let me tell you, there's been so many. There's one that there's one that stands out to me, and it was two best friends. They were teenage boys, and they
Mm.
were playing Russian roulette pretty much with a gun,
Whoa.
but they also were suicidal. So they wrote a note out, and they were at the boathouse, and they were just playing with a gun, and they just one decided, okay, well, I'll shoot you, and then I'll shoot myself, and it was one of those type of scenes, and I was the first one out there to the boathouse, found the bodies and the note and the gun. But again, knowing what I know and the history, luckily that I've had, I can and I think they know it too. And you and I are gonna have to talk about this one day, like how do they know it? How do they know when you're open and they know that you can hear them or see them? You know what
Oh.
I mean? It's almost like a is it a beacon,
Mhm.
or oh, yeah. But anyway, so I get there and the boys are in the boathouse, and they're obviously they're gone. So I'm waiting for EMS to get there, waiting for other units to arrive, and I can almost hear them and feel them, and they're so upset. It's like the energy is like it's hard to explain. Um, Regret is almost like
Mm.
the instant. Every suicide I've gone to, I felt almost like instant regret in the air, along with um, a very high emotional, intense energy around the home or the room or the garage or what happened or this boathouse. It's like you can almost cut it with a knife. This energy is just so intense, and it's almost like they know you can hear them or feel them because it's almost like they're like all over you. And the boys were like, help. They want help automatically, but you can't help them. And I tried to explain to them, in the back of my mind, because I know they can hear me or feel me, understand me, should I say.
Yeah.
When I tell them, unfortunately, you're going. It's happened. I can't help you, and that's the hardest thing to say to somebody as a first responder who all you want to do is help people. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
and when you can feel these people and tell them that I can't help you. Yeah, give it time. I don't know. I mean, I don't know as the I haven't been over there. I don't know how it
Yeah.
works, but it's kind of like it's tough. It's really tough being sensitive, I guess you could call it, and working those types of scenes. It's very tough.
Yeah. And especially, as mediums and as intuitives. I mean, we've been around this field for a long time. We've kind of we empaths, and we feel all kinds of stuff. And I mean, I do it all the time. People say I'm talking to myself. I'm like, I'm not really. No. Um, and I catch myself doing it all the time. Like um, it'll be okay, or this or that or that. No. Do you catch yourself in situations where you know what's happening? You forget about everything, what people are the living. You forget about what the living think about you, just talking to yourself. But do you catch yourself when you go on the scene actually speaking it out loud and comforting those who have passed?
If I'm alone, yes.
Yeah,
I've also been to other death calls where it's natural death, and it's like, you know what? God bless you on your journey, It's like it it's almost like a light, almost like a beautiful feeling, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Totally different from the scene of a suicide or a murder,
mhm,
It's like, you feel almost like their happiness or their relief, you know? Because 'cause I've gone
yeah.
to a lot of the natural deaths too. They're older, or, um yeah, I mean, it's totally different feeling. But yeah, absolutely, yeah, if I'm by myself, yeah, it was before cameras. We don't have a
Oh yeah.
I didn't have to wear the camera,
Oh
so
yeah, the body cams. Yeah, now those pick up
yeah,
everything.
or they would think I would be absolutely nuts if I wore a camera then.
Yeah,
My supervisor is probably like, "Oh, she's she okay?"
yeah, you're right.
She's
You're
talking
gonna
to
get a
me like
desk next
nobody
week.
there. Yeah, I was like, "Alright." I do have body cam of, I worked as an SRD for a little bit to keep my certification up at Howie,
Mhm.
and I do have a pretty good body cam of, another story. I don't know if you wanna get into that one here soon, but when
Yeah.
I was just talking. Huh?
Before we do, we're gonna take
Yes,
a quick break for one of our sponsors.
absolutely.
But but you can finish up the quick note that you got there.
Okay.
Um, um, what were you gonna say before that, or was that it that
The body
you were
cam
mentioning?
footage?
Yeah, you were mentioning something about the body cam.
Oh my gosh. So it was real late at night, and we're parked out of one of the older schools there in Howie. Howie's a real small town.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about spirit and stuff like that because he was a believer. It's kind of great when I actually work with another person who believes as you do and believes there's definitely more than just us here. So we're just talking about it and like, wow, this is a really old building. Wonder what the history is in there. Next thing you know, Paul, the front door comes open. It
What?
pops, bro, it pops open. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. The door pops open. And I look over at him because we're 50, 60 in the car. We're parked next to each
Yeah.
other. We're just talking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you see that? He's like, oh my God. He like went completely blank. He's like, yeah. I'm like, I said, bro, I think they want us to come in. This is like, it's an old school. I mean, they do, I don't know what they do there now with some of them. They do something in offices for something for the town. But it's like, oh my God. So we go in there. We end up searching searching the school to make sure that nobody was in there, physically robbing the
Yeah.
place. But the door popped open as we're talking about spirit, right? And then the
Wow.
front lobby, because the lights are censored. The lights come on. It was so cool. So you hear me on the body camera saying, "Oh my God, this is so cool! This is so cool!" As we're searching, this building, and then we get to the back of the building, towards the back door near the bathrooms, and you can actually caught an EVP on my camera of a woman whispering something. And it wasn't
Whoa.
me, and it was a guy that I was with, my Zone partner. So I'm like, that is so, I reviewed it later. I'm like, that is so awesome. I'm like, I still don't know what she was saying, but you could hear her like definitely a woman talking back in that back hallway. But it was just
Wow.
such an amazing it was just so amazing. Of course we didn't find anybody in there because it was spirit that popped the door open and turned on the lights. But it was great.
Wow.
In fact, I think I had that on one of my TikToks actually.
Yeah.
But me search of us searching it, and and you could hear her. But it's pretty cool. I got that.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
was the utterance that she said?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
You might
Yeah.
have you might have the equipment there that you could probably hear better than I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. Wow. Huh.
It was so awesome.
Man. Yeah, the things that yeah. It just to no end where the different experiences and stuff like that, and anything can happen. It's just nuts, and the way it happens, it's really cool.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but before we go any further, gonna take a quick break and a quick word for our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Greetings, doll lovers and horror fans. I am Master Dali, the Doll Master, inviting you to my house of dolls, where the dolls come alive and the horror begins.
All right, we are back. That is creepy. So, um, there was another story that there was something else you had told me, that had happened. Something about like a shower curtain or something like that. It's something to do with the shower curtain.
I love your memory. That's great. Absolutely, brother.
Some
Okay.
things I don't remember. There's a lot I don't remember, but when it comes to this stuff, man, I'm like a walking encyclopedia.
This is crazy. Okay, so this time it happened and it's called Grand Island. It's right there in Leesburg.
Mm.
And unfortunately, and this couple had got into a fight. And again, this was probably maybe just before sundown. So it wasn't quite dark yet, and wasn't the middle of the day, but it was around sundown. Well, the girlfriend calls 911 saying that the boyfriend just hit her. And so the dispatcher says, "We'll try to get out of the house and meet the deputies in the front yard." So she did. So my another zone partner, completely different guy, I'll call him Dave. Dave, him and I pull up into the front yard, and there's this girl out there, and unfortunately, she's all bloody, because he had popped her in the nose, and it was unfortunate. But she was all bloody, and so we ask her, "Where is he? Where's the boyfriend?" And she's like, she points inside the house, and we ask her, "Can we go inside and look for him?" She's like, "Yes, please go get him. He's inside the house." We're like, "Okay." So Dave and I go into the house, and immediately to our left, there's a hallway with a few doors. So we start searching to the left. First room was a bedroom. It was clear. We're fine. Now, for those who don't quite know how we search homes, we're very quiet. And so we'll whisper to each other, we'll give each other hand signals as we're going through the house because we don't want the bad guy to know we're coming.
Yeah.
We like to act on surprise. So we get to the second door and it's a bathroom. So the door was closed slightly, and Dave and I get on each side of the door frame. And I push the door open really hard. And with the wind from the door, it catches the shower curtain. And the shower curtain literally, it looked like it wrapped around a body, like somebody was standing in the tub. You know what
Mm-mm.
I mean? Like it literally formed itself around a body that was just standing there. So
Yeah.
him and I quickly look, we step back for a second, we look at each other, and we're messaging with our hands like, "Did you see that?" He's like, "Yes." And I'm like, okay, on three, we'll just go get him. Because obviously this man who's hiding from us in the bathtub, we know he's there. We're going to get him, right?
Yeah.
I count to three. We bust into the bathroom. We go to, we go to grab the guy in the shower curtain, the guy is standing in the tub, and there's nobody there. We
Wow.
grabbed nothing but air. It was just like, what the hell just happened? You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh,
and Dave
man.
looks at me. He's like, Lori, I'm like, dude, here. I know you saw. We're sitting in the bathroom, literally having this conversation. Like we're trying to be quiet. We're like, but we're freaking out at the same time because we know we just saw what we saw. And Dave, especially because he wasn't a believer either,
Yeah.
but we were like kind of freaking out. Like, okay, that was so weird. Okay, let's just keep going. So then we finished clearing the house, and next thing you know, we had found out the guy had ran out the back door, and because the door was slightly open, the back door was open. So we caught him in the backyard later. But the whole point, and we had to talk about it after the call was over, was like, what the hell just happened? And and Dave was like, damn it, Lori, you and your ghosts. And I'm like, it wasn't me. Every partner I've had always makes a joke about that. But no, that wasn't. I said, Dave, you saw what I saw. That guy was in there. Was there something in there enough for us to want to go grab it. But there was nothing but air, man. Nothing but
Yeah.
air.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was wild.
Yeah. It's amazing the amount of, and I'm sure there's probably other calls than these 3 and 4, and there's probably 1.5 million that you could probably share. Um, have you heard any stories from any of the other first responders, other units like the fire department or EMS? Because I mean, they're the ones that have to pick up the bodies. Car accidents, suicide,
Oh
especially car
wow.
accidents.
Okay. I've seen some. I mean, me personally, I've seen some miracles at car accidents where the person should have died, but they weren't even touched.
Oh yeah,
I've seen that. When it comes to some of the guys, like I told you, a lot of the guys that I worked with, and when NFD and EMS, they're the big tough guys who don't want people to think they're crazy, so they don't really talk about it.
yeah,
So, yeah, I didn't get to work that closely with them for them to feel comfortable enough to talk to me about it. So
huh. There
yeah.
was there is one guy when I was in basic with the state guard. We had shared. He was in the nick. He was in the bottom bunk. I was in the the top bunk next to the bed because I was way in the back of the barracks, and he was. I think he's South Florida, FD, and until he knew what I did, it wasn't until like maybe the second or third, going into the second week of basic when only a fraction of the people knew exactly what I did. How it's you know as a pastime. And then he started sharing stories. He's like, "You believe in that?" I'm like,
Wow.
"Yeah." And he's like, "Dude, I got some stories to tell you." I'm like, "I bet you do."
It's awesome.
and and we do it at night too. I mean, when it's dark on base, it is dark. Lights out at what was it, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock? 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock sharp. Lights out. Stories start going.
That's great.
But yeah, and I've heard stories from military, and other areas of the first responders and stuff like that. But um, now, do you have any par? You've done some paranormal investigation work too, as well, right?
Yes.
Have any really creepy anything creepy to share with us for during an investigation that you've been on?
Well, when we first started investigating, my old team and I had a group of guys I actually worked with from the sheriff's office. It was pretty neat. It's like you were saying, like, sometimes you have some downtime, you just start talking, you're like, oh, well, so and so, and you end up connecting with others who are like minded.
Yeah.
And one guy in the group, he was our chopper pilot. He flew the sheriff's
Uh,
office helicopter, and of course they spend a lot of time in the hangar because they're always on call or they're sleeping there or they say they go through shifts at the hangar. So he swore the hangar was haunted,
yeah.
and things would even we're talking like poltergeists and everything at the hangar.
Yeah.
So he has some really good stories there. Pete did, um, but yeah, I mean, when we first started, gosh, back in the early 2000s, we went to this one place in Tavares, and it was pretty active. We had doors that were opening and closing,
Hmm.
and on when we requested it. I'm not going to say on demands. I don't like the demand spirit, anything. But when you requested, yeah, things were coming open and closed, and of course you get the EVPs. I'm trying to think of a really something like super crazy that'd be scary, but I think a person out there who doesn't understand spirit, I think anything like that would be scary to
Mm,
them. But
yeah.
to us, it's like, oh, how neat! Can
Yeah.
you do that
Right.
again? But it's
Yeah.
like, oh man, just pretty much, those the basic doors opening, closing. I'm trying to think what. Oh boy, we've done so many. Even throughout the years, even in Casadega. I mean,
Mm.
God,
What was that one that we did in Cat? Because we picked up quite a few things in Casadega that night.
spirit box upstairs. They were
Yeah, the
just
spirit
talking.
box, because we did one in the bathroom. It's
Yeah,
old. For those who are listening and watching, it's old house. It's probably what, like late 1800s, early 1900s home.
Summerlin, the
2
camp
stories.
office. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
2 stories. We're up on the second floor bathroom. It's an old Victorian style home, wood floors. So no matter where you walked, you'd hear everything. Um, and yeah, it's small. Yeah, that was a small. Yeah, that's a very small bathroom. There was like 5 or 6 of us in there just huddled, and
Yeah, I
it's just like,
remember.
"Okay, we gotta turn on the water, because if we turn on the water, because running water actually is a magnet for energy." And then
Yes.
we turned on the spirit box and, started asking questions and recording it, audio and video recording it and stuff. But, there were a couple things there's some details I don't remember. If there's
Right.
anything that you might remember, because there were a few areas that we recorded, but I'm not. There was so much happening that weekend. I was just a blur.
It's funny that you mentioned it because if you're friends on Facebook with Casadega, it's actually still on there. Our
Really?
investigation is still on there. Yeah, because it was live, so it kept it under video.
Oh
I
yeah.
was looking at it. It's been a few weeks, but I remember seeing that. I was like, wow, that was fun. Yeah, we had a lot
Wow.
of fun. But yeah, it's on there.
Huh.
It was hours. We were for a few hours. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
That
found
was
out about, huh?
that was like, yeah, that was because what the heck? But like an all. But yeah, it was like throughout the whole night, wasn't it?
It was
I mean, literally, it was
sporadic.
just like, yeah, man. I was like, now, did you ever do the any experiences at the Howie Mansion? I remember we did an investigation with the church in the Howie Mansion years ago,
Yeah.
and it was like 2014 or something, like 2013 or 2014, when I was still with the church, Chapel of Spiritual Light in Orlando, and we decided to get the whole parish involved and select mediums to go in and do some readings first, and then do a table tipping seance in the ballroom, and then the entire rest of the night we just videotaped the entire property and just it was kind of like a I don't know what do you call that? It was like yeah, it was like we were filming a documentary, almost like Blair Witch. It almost seemed like Blair Witch. We're just walking around, just
Yeah.
filming, just asking questions, and the medium was, just pulling pulling the answers of what the spirits were telling her. But did you ever do anything at the Howie Mansion?
Yes. I'm hoping I won't get in trouble. I can't get in trouble for this because I've already retired. Okay. So for years prior to them restoring the mansion, it sat there.
Mm.
And we were always getting calls left and right of trespassers. People always wanted to look at the Howie Mansion.
Oh yeah.
And so, but one night it was like really dead, no pun, it was really dead. So three of us from three different agencies, we kind of converged. We're all good friends. And I had a K2 meter, I had my
Mhm.
recorder, and we're like, let's go in and check it out. We're going to do a property check, make sure there's no trespassers and stuff like that. So we'll go check out the property because you can get right in one of the back doors
Yeah.
at the time. Can't do it now. So sure enough, middle of the night, we're walking around this big, almost empty place. It still has some items still left there. It was prior to renovation. Let's just remember that. So it was pretty wild. I was the only female of the three of us that were there, and after walking through with a recorder and reviewing it later, I did hear some EVPs of a female saying, "They're here. Leave. Leave now." But she
Huh.
was talking. It was almost like she was talking to somebody else, telling them to leave. Like, because we were there. What, the cops were there? I wasn't sure. I never could understand why she said, "Get out, leave now." They're here. So that
Huh.
was weird. But I had my K2 meter at one point in time. I put it down in the ballroom, and we stepped all the way back. We made sure our radios were off. Everything was off because we're doing a property check and we didn't want to be bothered, right? So we turn off all of our equipment and we're watching. I asked a couple of questions, and it started reacting. I started getting the lights, and I'm like, and the two guys I was with, of course, they were curious, but they had never seen anything, that would make them true believers. But they seen how it was reacting and answering some questions, and they also, as we're leaving, and we're walking down the long driveway towards the gate, we hear dogs running up behind us. Like, how you can hear dogs with the dog's nails or claws.
Yeah.
You could hear it. It almost sounded like maybe two dogs, and they were running up behind us, like trying to catch up to us or something.
Huh.
And I always meant to look back or try to research if they had dogs there, or if Mr. Howie had dogs or whatever. But we all heard that, and there was nothing behind us. But yeah, got an EVP, got some, reactions on the K2, and we all physically heard at least two dogs running behind us. It was great.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
That is a beautiful. I haven't been back since they finished the renovation. We were there when we did that whole night. Um, that was I think that was 2013. Yeah, 2013 or 2014. I don't remember. It was either before. I think it was before I went to Shanghai. Um, but I think when you mention that spirit says get out now. That
Yeah.
kind of it makes me think that the spirit was telling the other spirits there that the living is here, so to speak. There's someone here, get out, and whatnot, and just um, yeah, that's what it's kind of that's what it seems like. At least that's what I was picking up.
It's a beautiful
'Cause
place, though. There's
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I do remember we had we all sat on the floor upstairs in the master bedroom. And during one of our first walks, um, I would have went in as a medium, but I was like, as a case manager, I'm pulling all this data and stuff like that, so I can't share that with anybody. And if I got anything, I wouldn't share it with anybody until afterwards anyway. But as we were doing the walk, we had two of our mediums say the same thing, that there was a child in the bathroom. There was like a bathroom closet type thing, and there was a child sitting on the floor in the corner of the closet in that master bedroom. And they were hiding. They were hiding from someone, something. And I guess one of our mediums was actually having a conversation with this child. It's like, what? And we were trying to consult the child, because I guess the child was scared and stuff like that, and just let them know that it's okay. It's okay. We're not here to hurt you or anything. But and I think later that night too. Actually, no, this was the next day. Was it the next day? Yeah, I think this was the next day. Most of everybody left, and me and a couple of the other investigators stayed. Finished packing up our stuff. The sun is coming up, and it's getting into slowly getting into the mid-morning time. And we're like, let's see if we can. We still have I think we had 2 days and stuff like that. It really was no time limit for us to be on the property, because there
So
were
awesome.
there were some caretakers there at the time that knew we were there. So we're like, let's before we leave, let's see if we can capture anything before we call it quits. So me, I guess I could just say the name because they don't live in Florida anymore, but me, Justin, and I'll call her Sid. So for those who might be watching, might know who that is, I'll call her Sid. So she goes upstairs into the main hallway that runs from the master bedroom all the way down the entire length of the building.
Long haul. Yeah.
And yeah, that's a long hallway. It's like, what? So I think she decides to go down opposite of the master bedroom and sits in the hallway against the wall. And I give her a digital recorder to just sit there and just talk, meditate, talk, and just have a conversation with spirit and see if she can personally pick up anything from the seance that she's going to have by herself, because we weren't going to stay in the house. Me and Justin were going to go downstairs outside and walk the garden and see if we can maybe capture anything from outside of the house. So me and Justin are walking around the garden there in the back, and suddenly Sid runs. She's like yelling. You can hear her yelling from outside. She's yelling. And she comes outside. She's like, oh my God, I think I got something. And we're like, what? We play it, and you can just hear her talking. She's asking questions and stuff like that. And you can hear the utterance. I forget what the question was, but you can hear like yes. And I think it was like a male voice.
Yeah.
But she asked something, and there's a little pause, but then you hear yes. It's like, what? Like, whoa.
She wasn't expecting that.
No, that's what freaked her out. She's a medium. She does this all the time. She got that, and she just got spooked and got the hell out of Dodge. But,
As you were talking about the child in the corner, it reminded me of a house that a lot of us deputies actually know is active spirit wise, because no one lives there, but yet we would get alarm calls all the time. And we always used to call it the house on Sunnyside. And whenever the alarm call would come in, we all kind of joke around with each other, like, "Oh, it's the ghost again." We never could understand why we're always getting alarm calls for this old plantation house off Sunnyside when no one lives there and there's no electricity.
Huh.
Yeah, and what's crazy is, like, it was more than me. We're talking maybe 10 deputies, 12 deputies, or whoever worked whatever shift, just knew that house was empty and just didn't understand why we'd have to go. Well, of course, we'd always go out there, but why it would activate an alarm call for us. So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
if there was no electricity, was was there an alarm that had, like, some sort of, like, contingency power system or battery or something, or was
We
it
can
just
never figure it out.
some
Not even dispatch.
phantom?
They tried researching it. Yeah, these random alarm calls would come in.
Huh.
So my zone partner and I, a different zone partner, a female, another female, her name was Lisa. We decided that's it. Next time, we're going to take a recorder out there and we're going to see what's going on. We couldn't get in, but it was this beautiful plantation home with a wraparound porch and everything. A very pretty place. And unfortunately, it was not lived in for a while, but there was family next door who would watch it. We're kind of the caretakers of the house and the property.
Mm,
But I know we're probably running short on time, but I just want to tell you this story real quick.
yeah.
Um, so sure enough, I kept the recorder in the car, and the alarm call goes off. So Lisa and I go out there. It was early one morning. It was cold outside. We parked our cars at the end of the driveway, which you couldn't because you couldn't get onto the property with your vehicle. It was all blocked off. So we're walking up the long driveway up towards the house. I turn on my recorder and we start walking around the porch. And we're walking around with everybody okay. We're asking basic questions. Anyone need, law enforcement? We're here. Everything okay? Et cetera, et cetera. I get back to the car and I hit play, and you hear a little girl on the porch saying, "I want to go home. I want to go home." And Lisa heard that too, and where our mouths just dropped. I want to go home. She's like, "Oh my God, Lori, we need to go back there. Let's walk back up the driveway and ask her if she's okay, and let's we need to talk to her." So we go back up the driveway and we're trying to communicate with the little girl. Now this is funny picture. There's two deputies, right? They're like,
Yeah.
if people were to walk by, I mean, and see us, like, what are they doing? We're just trying to talk to spirit. Yeah. We're literally trying to communicate with this little girl we just heard on recorder. And we're asking, "Do you need any help or what's wrong? Or how can we help you?" And of course, when I listen back, you hear a man clearly say, "Don't talk to them."
Ooh.
Yeah. I can't find anything on certain history or search. I don't, but the little
Huh.
girl, it melts your heart when you hear it. And then to hear him say very sternly, "Don't talk to them," that was just freaky as it is there.
Yeah.
So after that, we didn't get anything.
It's like you can almost put your own story around that or build your own story and assume that, the girl is I I don't know, it used to live there maybe. I don't Yeah, it's hard to say. And then the guy may have I don't know. But
Yeah.
you could always assume all this else, and you can all assume anything. The only thing is like pulling records. What are the records of that place? Who died? Who passed away on the property? And maybe not
Yeah.
only who died on the property, but who worked on the property. I mean, shoot, these spirits could have been residences of that property way back at, 1800s.
Yeah.
Maybe both of them were like slaves back in the plantation era, and the girl was a slave that got kidnapped from her original family and wanted to go back home.
Yeah. She came through very clear. And
Yeah.
it was just heart wrenching.
Eesh.
And hearing him, it was just make your skin crawl. It was just really, it was weird. So Lisa and I pretty much We left because we didn't get anything else after that. But are the calls still coming in? Yes, because I have friends who obviously still work in the area and
Yeah.
they get their random alarm calls out of the house.
That's odd though. It's like how
I don't know.
I mean, it's like where does the alarm? I mean, if there's no power, it's like where like what how can there be an alarm if there's no alarm and no power to power the alarm for the alarm to go off? That's weird. It's like
Correct.
what it's like what actually signals that or triggers it? That's just
Yep.
hmm,
It's secure. Like every time we'd go out there, the house was secure. So
yeah.
it was just almost like it was calling to have a visitor. You know what I mean? It was like
Yeah,
really weird.
yeah. It's like the house has eyes. You know, the house is alive in and of itself, and it's like, hey, we're having a party. Alarm goes
Send a
off.
couple of cops out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Oh man. Wow. Lori, thank you. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us here during these special moments of every year during the month of October as we get closer to Halloween. But we don't know who's going to be the first place winner of the spookiest episode. That is yet to be decided because not all episodes are in yet. So we shall find out. And yeah, this was spooky. I mean, this is definitely spooky. Um, so, but yeah, I appreciate it, Lori. Thank you, my friend. Thank you,
Absolutely.
thank you much. Keep me posted for any more experiences because I mean you're a sensitive as well, you know, an intuitive and sensitive, and have been through some, you know, your fair share of work and stuff through Casadega and stuff. So if there's any other stories and stuff like that you'd like to share and whatnot, next year during next year's show and stuff, and
Okay.
but yeah, cool. But
Thank you for
That
having me.
you are very, very welcome. Very welcome. We definitely got to catch up on some other stories and stuff like that, either after the show or later on and later on in time. But I will also let our audience go because I wouldn't say we're over because there's no such thing as over unless it's hours and hours. But
Right.
other than that, I will let you. I'll let our audience go and everyone have a very, very wonderful night. And thank you for watching Conscious Radio Network's True Ghost Stories. Until next time.